Good afternoon, class. Today's lecture will be about the Art of Viraf Namag, and we will discuss the text use as an emotional agent of comfort. And so the text is a Pahlavi text written in the 10th century. However, the version we will be using today is a 16th century version written by an Iranian Zoroastrian, translated from the original Pahlavi to New Persian so that it could be understood by the Zoroastrian community in India. In the text, King Ardashir, a Sasanian king, wants to dispel any religious doubts and wants to prove that Ahura Mazda is the one God and that his religion, Zoroastrianism, is the true religion. And so he calls upon the sacred people of the land to come and commit themselves to an otherworldly journey in which they can bring back with them information assuring the society that all the doubts are unnecessary and that Zoroastrianism is the true religion. And so 40,000 people assemble in the king's court, but only one of these people is chosen, and this person is Viraf. And Viraf is chosen, the text says, because he was sinless from the age of 8 until his current age of the otherworldly journey. And so the king, along with the 40,000, travel to the fire temple in order to commit themselves for religious ceremonies to purify the palace, but also to support Viraf's otherworldly journey. And so they give Viraf some consecrated bread and some wine to drink. And after eating the bread and drinking the wine, Viraf is put into a 7-day sleep. So initially, with his journey, he meets Sarush, who's an otherworldly being, and he shows him to the Chinvad Bridge, which is a bridge that must be crossed after the evening of the 4th day of the soul's death. And this soul that was crossing is a good soul, and so they had a good, beautiful figure helping them cross, and this figure is known as a den, which is a personification of a person's good deeds or evil sins. And then they follow this soul into heaven, and they see that this soul is joyous and luminous and dressed in precious clothing and dancing with their relatives that have already been deceased. But when Viraf turns around to see the bridge again, he sees that there are people standing in the middle. And when he inquires about their status, he is told that these people have committed an equal amount of sins and an equal amount of good deeds, in which case they must remain there experiencing the punishment of cold and heat until the final judgment and the resurrection of bodies. Then Viraf visits heaven in the 3 stages, which are the star level, the moon level, and the sun level. And these first 2 levels are for people that are not initiated into Zoroastrianism and that did not perform some of the rituals. Whereas the sun level is for those that are initiated into Zoroastrianism and they have few sins that are committed. But all 3 levels are luminous and all 3 levels are a part of the heaven. Then Viraf is taken to the place where Ahura Mazda is worshipped, and he actually passes out because the place is so luminous. And throughout the text you see a pattern of luminosity, precious clothing, and the surroundings of pleasure and comfort for those that have committed good deeds and those that were rewarded in heaven. And there are 3 ways to be rewarded in heaven. So you can be rewarded through ritual merits, moral merits, or family merits. So for instance, a ritual merit would be somebody in the text actually who worshipped fire and water, and they were rewarded with multicolored clothing and luminosity. And a moral merit would be one such as generosity which is rewarded with the highest place in heaven and precious clothing. Or family merits, which would be given to a wife who had obeyed her husband, and she would experience heavenly rewards as well. There are also social groups within heaven, such as the priestly class and the judges, which will be rewarded with high status and will be seated on cushions. There will be kings. The good kings, for instance, will be rewarded as they will be able to fly, and they will be dressed in jewelry. There are farmers, shepherds, soldier heroes, and husbandmen, all of which will be rewarded in heaven. And the text states actually that every person in paradise is there because of their good thoughts, their good words, and their good deeds. And so the text is reassuring the people that they will be rewarded in heaven if they are good, and if that they are not good at all, that they should change their ways in order to become a better person, in order to be rewarded in heaven. And the text also actually is saying that if you aren't rewarded in earth, then you will be rewarded in heaven. And so there are people that have doubts, that perhaps are worried that they're committing all these good deeds but are not being rewarded, and so they will be rewarded in heaven. And this text reassures them of that. There are also people, for instance, that feel doubt in the religion in terms of the rewards that they will receive. And this text showing them that the rewards go through a retaliation law, in which case you will be rewarded according to your deed or your sin or opposite. And then, after visiting heaven, in heaven actually, Viraf meets his second guide, which is named Ordabisht, and then he travels to the River of Tears. And at the River of Tears, he sees souls trying to cross this river filled with, which are filled with all this water, which is said to be tears of those who mourned the dead. And so Viraf is told by the superior beings to tell the people on earth not to mourn the dead. And so this is also another comforting factor, in which case they're told, the people that are living are told not to cry for the people that are dead, because they will be rewarded and punished accordingly. And so your worries and your tears and your mourning is actually only hurting the people that are already dead as opposed to helping them. And so it's unnecessary. And then Viraf returns to the Chinvad Bridge, where he sees an evil soul, a soul that had committed more sin than good, trying to cross the bridge, and he is seen with a scary figure, which the Den, personifying all his evil deeds. And then he is pushed by a strong cold wind into hell. And hell is described as a very dark place filled with caves and noxious animals, where the souls are taken and thrown into the caves and then eaten and bitten by those animals. And in hell, there are 6 episodes in which Viraf witnesses that are punishments for women, 5 episodes in which groups are punished, and 19 episodes where men are punished. And the 6 episodes that the women are punished, 2 examples that I will be giving in class are one in which the woman does not obey her menstrual purity rules, and as a result she is forced to eat her menses, her blood, and feces. And another case in which a woman disobeys her husband, and as a result she is forced to hang upside down with her tongue pulled out. And in the 19 episodes where men are punished, one such example of the punishments include a man who did not wear the kusti, and he will die of hunger and thirst. And in another instance, there's a man who committed sexual relations with a woman on her period, and he is forced to eat a bowl of blood. So just as hell is dark and scary and filled with noxious animals, of course heaven is luminous and filled with pleasures and comfort. And in the same way, just as heaven has the three orders of merits that can be rewarded, hell has four classifications of sins in which people will be punished. So there are sins against rituals. So for instance, the man who did not wear the kusti. There are sins against social order. So people that are greedy, or people that do things against the social norm. And then there are sins against family institutions. So women that disobey their husbands. And there are sins against violence. And this includes murdering people, abortion, and killing animals, such as dogs. And so in terms of textual comfort, the images of hell provide people with an idea of what it is like to be punished for those people that are really evil on earth. And it comforts people in the way because if one takes into effect the context of this piece of writing, a few years later, after the Sasanian Empire falls, there's the Muslim Empire that comes into conquest and completely destroys the remnants of Zoroastrianism and Christianity, and has them subject to Islam. And so this text is basically telling people not to worry because those souls that are bad will be punished. And so, for instance, the Muslims that are invading and that are conquering and that are destroying the livelihood, or that are persecuting these Zoroastrians or these Jews or these Christians or whoever, in whichever apocalyptic text you're talking about, will be punished. Specifically in this text, it's the Zoroastrians. And the same way, people that are irreligious or people that defy any of the orders that I previously mentioned will be punished, if not on earth, in heaven, or both. And in terms of why people throughout history turn to religion, one may state that religion is always seen as a security or a comforting agent, because religion is something that you cannot see but that you can imagine, that you can know exists because, for instance, we exist. Religion is something that cannot be always explained but can be felt. And if not, religion is a way to reassure you that your pain and your comfort is temporary and that there are better things to await you. And this is why, to me, I believe that religion is always a source of emotional comfort, because we as humans are very weak, and we have so little that we can depend on that will actually get us, we can do so little that will get us, far on our own. And so we need to believe in a higher power that can move us to places and that can get us into a better situation. And so this is seen throughout history. So for the Jewish people, for instance, in the Babylonian exiles and in the Nazi persecutions, they always turned to religion because they had nothing that they could do in their hands. They were physically unable to change the situation. And so it is left to the supernatural. And same thing for the Zoroastrian community. If it's taken up as as a text of comfort, and then we see that it's a reassuring text that shows people that although they cannot do anything, God is just and God will fix the situation. And if not in your lifetime, in the lifetime to come, and if not on this earth, in heaven. And so that leads me to the end of our last class. But before we go, I have a spot quiz question for you. And so my question is, it's very simple this time. It's, why do you think, just your own perspective, that people turn to religion? So why do people always want, why do people always write religious texts? And why do people always assume that religion has all the answers and that religion can be a comfort to everybody? Thank you.